This is a bit of a brain dump that I may or may not upload depending on how it goes. But I'm formulating the ideas for a more formal video, scripted, or more scripted, that talks about the ways I was harmed by astrology, or harmed by someone practicing astrology. I'm not going to try to refute it. I think there are plenty of arguments I can use, but with people who have these sort of ingrained beliefs that are quasi-religious, it doesn't necessarily work to just try to refute their ideas directly to them. They'll generally dig their heels in. But I can talk about my own experience, and you can't argue with my own experience, because my experience is mine. And unless you want to assert that I'm lying, you have to believe my experience, and believe that I was harmed by astrology, inadvertently. But also what I'm trying to establish is that this isn't just like human error. I think that it's built into how astrology is thought about and practiced that led to harm in me, and probably leads to harm in other people. So basically, the idea is that I was pigeonholed into a box that does not actually describe me. This is somewhat similar to actually being pigeonholed into a gender box based upon arbitrary information found in my body. I was also pigeonholed into a zodiac box based on arbitrary information based on where and when I was born. I was told that I would be certain ways based on my, not just sun sign, but various different signs and other things. I was told that my life would have certain things about it, or whatever specific or vague statements one makes on a natal chart. And those things aren't true about me, or not necessarily true. The things used to describe my various signs don't line up with how I actually am. Being told that I'm a sun sign, redacted, I'm not going to say it, is similar, honestly, to being told that I'm male. And I was assigned male at birth, just as I was assigned a sun sign at birth, and like the sun sign, the gender was wrong. Like, failed to take into account my brain, which you can't observe directly. So like, being zodiaced essentially is kind of like being misgendered. It's a violation. It feels like you refuse to see me on my terms. It feels like you've made prejudgments about me, based on my sign, based on where and when I was born, that are going to cloud your ability to actually see me on my own terms. You won't, if you look at my chart and try to come to any conclusions about me, you will be wrong. You might be right about something, but whatever you are right about, it'll probably be really vague. That's right for a lot of people. So my mother is a lifelong, or no, not lifelong, but decades-long committed astrologer, and I was surrounded with this jargon. I still don't really understand it because I never really paid attention to it, but I was surrounded with this jargon and had several charts done for me, and actually one done for like a girl I was interested, like a chart, like a relationship chart for a girl I was interested in, and like, I was sort of surrounded by this concept that I could have to get insight into my life through just a natal chart, or just, a dual person, comparing two people's natal charts or whatever. And this isn't true. I'm sorry to say, you cannot derive useful or meaningful information about me based upon my chart. If you find something in me that lines up with an expectation, it could be a coincidence. It could be a matter of you seeing what you want to see, and also remembering the hits and forgetting the misses. If you write about 2 aspects or 2 personality traits and wrong about 10 of them, that's just chance. This isn't meant to be an attack on astrologers, because I think astrologers have, the best of intentions. They want to understand. They want to give understanding to people. but I don't think it gives us understanding. I think it gives us an imaginary sense of understanding. I think it inadvertently has the effect of gaslighting us. Um, you know, I'm told something about myself, and I realize that that's not true, but this information about myself is coming from an authority figure, and so I question myself. It's like, is that right? Am I being wrong? Am I like, it can really fuck up a brain, especially a young brain, telling them that they're a certain thing that they're not, or that you don't have actual evidence to show. Like, if you have actual evidence of a person's personality traits and say, I observed this in you, that's one thing. But it's another thing to say, your chart says this is how you are. Um, who said that? Some ancient people, thousands of years ago, writing a different language, living in different cultures, decided that people who were born when a particular constellation was in the sky at that time, we're going to have things associated with whatever cultural significance that constellation had been given. What to speak of the fact that precession has made it so that the sign isn't even in the sun isn't even in that sign when you're born. It's in a different sign, but we pretend it's in the other sign that it was thousands of years ago. Like, anyway, I digress. I mainly want to talk about the harm, rather than try to combat or argue with the ideas themselves, but it's the ideas themselves that are harmful, that lead to the harm, in my opinion. I think that unless you have a way you can really demonstrate a connection between, sun signs, constellations, planets, houses, and measurable and immutable personality traits, until you can start demonstrating that connection, until then it seems to be like false hope, pseudo-insight. Astrologers might have other personal tools that they use in their brain, like to, like the cold read. You can pick up a lot about a person and give them advice without even necessarily knowing much about what's going on with them. I think ultimately it turns into a lot of wishful thinking and other cognitive biases that do not actually help you. Even if you get the sense of understanding or peace from it for a little while, like, are you sure that's not an illusion? Are you sure you're actually getting real insight that you couldn't have gotten otherwise? Are you sure your insight is actually based on real facts, real things about you? Anyway, hope this isn't too inflammatory, but I'm feeling stronger and stronger about this. Like, I don't want to alienate my friends. I have people I love who like astrology, but like, I need you to know that this practice can harm people. And there's no reason to assume that its assertions are true just because you think they're true. I mean, until you can show it in some meaningful way, like, it's just fantasy until then. I'm sorry. Fantasy that harms people. If it didn't harm people, I wouldn't care that much. I've heard of people who admit that astrology is fake and still use it, and it's like, okay, well, don't use it on anyone else who doesn't consent to it, but if you use it on yourself, fine. But using it on people, especially young brains, who don't have the ability to weigh the ideas critically and perceive other ways of thinking about things, that is setting a person up in some bad ways. FYI.